time to take a stroll through the headlines here in France. Alison Sargent is here to take us through the French press review. Hi, Alison.
Hi, Val.
And the papers here looking at, of course, gearing up for tonight's second presidential debate. Maybe a second presidential debate, but it's a first.
That's right, Val, because it's the first with all 11 of the candidates. You'll remember last time it was just the 5 big heavyweights, but tonight the 6 little players are going to get to partake as well. And there's a lot of anticipation for how this is going to work because 11 is quite a lot of people, and you might even need a new TV to fit them all. That's the cartoon we see on the front page of La Nouvelle République. It's a regional paper from the center of France. We see a man coming in saying, "I bought a bigger TV so we can see all 11 candidates at the same time." You can see all 11 candidates at the same time on the cover of West France today. That's a regional paper from the Northwest Brittany region. This debate is going to last 3.5 hours. Each candidate will have 17 minutes of talking time. That's how that breaks down. And on the cover of the Télégramme, another local paper from the northwest of France, you can get a closer look at just those 6 faces that we're all a little bit less familiar with. On the top row from the left, we have Nathalie Arthaud, François Asselineau, Jacques Cheminade, and on the bottom row from the left, we have Nicolas Dupont-Aignan. We're going to learn a little more about him later. Jean Lassalle, and then Philippe Poutou.
And it is a question of as to how they're going to put all of those 11 on screen. I remember in the first debate, 5 seemed quite enough, so 11's quite a lot. But anyway, a lot of the papers focusing on those lesser-known candidates.
Yes, les petits candidats, what we're calling them, kind of the little guys. This is their hour of glory, according to L'Opinion. If you're having a hard time keeping them straight, don't worry, you're not alone. In this cartoon on the front page, we see newscasters from the channels that are going to be broadcasting tonight's debate, and they're trying to identify the candidates who are depicted as Smurfs. One is saying, "No, I'm Asselineau, that's Cheminade," and another says, "No, I'm Benoît Hamon." So L'Opinion is taking a little dig there at socialist candidate Benoît Hamon, who isn't doing so well in the polls.
Very funny. So if we want to know a little bit more about those lesser-known candidates, those 6 candidates, which paper should we be reading?
You should probably read the Figaro today. On the front page, we have... You can see those 6 candidates with a headline that's quite similar to the one we saw in L'Opinion, a day of glory for the little candidates. And then inside the paper, we have more information about each candidate, including their key measures and how well they're each doing in the polls. So the one with the highest score is pictured on the far left. He's the one I mentioned before, Nicolas Dupont-Aignan. He currently has an estimated 4% of the vote, and he's a pretty far right-wing candidate. You could kind of situate him in between Marine Le Pen and François Fillon. He proposes closing borders and lowering taxes. The next one over is Jean Lassalle. He's sort of a centrist candidate. He's at 1%. And then the next 2 over you see there's a woman, Nathalie Arthaud, and Philippe Poutou. They're far-left candidates, very big into workers' rights, and they each have an estimated 0.5% of the vote.
And Le Parisien, aujourd'hui en France, a tabloid here in France, keeping its focus on one main candidate, of course, Emmanuel Macron.
Yeah, according to Le Parisien, aujourd'hui en France, Macron is the person to beat tonight. On the front page, we have la cible numéro 1, the #1 target. And it's sort of an interesting choice, though, on a day when so many papers are giving their focus to candidates who don't get a lot of press, to put someone like Macron, who we hear a lot about, in the spotlight. France's Catholic paper, La Croix, is also keeping their focus on the bigger candidates. They have a series of reports today from the campaign trail, scènes de campagne, campaign scenes. They remind us that we're now just 20 days away from that first round, and they interview some of Fillon's loyal supporters who say that they admire him even more in light of all the scandals he's facing. They also say Le Pen is focusing on young voters at her rallies, Benoît Hamon is trying to stir up the memory of social struggles at his, and Emmanuel Macron is going after undecided voters.
Okay, and in the Le Figaro, there is a look at how the foreign press, because we haven't spoken about them yet, is responding to this French presidential campaign.
Yeah, and they've been responding with some pretty harsh judgment, according to Le Figaro. They say the campaign is totally crazy, despicable, pathetic. Those are just some of the words they're using to describe it. We also learn about the reactions in some specific countries. The German correspondent here in Paris says that Germans are very critical of corruption, suspicions, so they haven't been very supportive of François Fillon. And then Jean-Luc Mélenchon, it turns out, has a fan base in Spain because his grandparents on his dad's side were Spanish. And a Japanese correspondent says no one in Japan was even interested in the French election at all until Brexit happened, and now everyone's paying attention. So in general, Le Figaro says that the main reason the foreign media is interested in France is because of the idea that Marine Le Pen could actually win this time.
Of course, and the shockwaves through Europe on that would be sizable, let's say. Alison Sargent, thank you very much for taking us through the French papers there. Alison Sargent with the French Press Review.